10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 116. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. So happy to have you back in. Welcome. Hope you had a great week and hope you're ready to get started on part 3 of our practice progressions episode. This is going to be the third and final installment in this series. Super excited to bring these to you. Before we get into the show, a little bit of housekeeping. If you are new to the show, or even if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that we do PDFs with every single episode here at the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. And those PDFs are really like 40% of the material. So if you want to get those PDFs, you can head over to our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com, and you will notice right after the latest episode on the website, you'll find a link to our Patreon site where you can support the show and get access to all of those PDFs. Now, I know a lot of you out there are listening to the show without getting the PDFs, but in my mind, you're missing out on about half of what we're talking about here. And guess what? It's only $3 a month to support the show, get all the PDFs, and with this episode, we are introducing something brand new. I'm going to give you play-alongs for all of the PDFs that you've had for the past 3 weeks. So all of these practice progressions that we've gone over in part 1, 2, and 3 of these are going to be available as play-alongs, and you're going to hear how fantastic these play-alongs are in today's episode. So just another thing that you get for becoming a member of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson community over on our Patreon site for like the price of 1 cup of coffee a month. $36 a year, you get all of that. So please consider, this is a listener-supported show, so please consider supporting us, keeping us going, keeping the content coming at you, all for a very, very low price every month. Thank you so much to the over 150 people who are already choosing to support us every single month. You guys are the best, and you are the ones that make this show possible each and every week. All right, let's get into today's episode. So we've gone over several different practice progressions that I like to use in my daily practice to work on whatever concepts I am studying that week, that month, that year. And these are things that I keep coming back to all the time because these are the most common chord progressions that you're going to see in a lot of the tunes that you're playing. So working on them independently of a particular tune, I think, is one of the most fantastic things to do. It allows you to take one idea and move it around into all 12 keys, if that's what you're looking to do, or simply to just play over certain chord changes. So if you're working on, your major 7 chords and you're working on a particular sound, maybe you're working on the Lydian sound, you can just put on these play-alongs and really go to town, and they will loop over and over and over again. And you could just get well-versed in your strong keys and in your weak keys. That's the really beautiful thing about this. So far on this series, what I have presented to you is very, very traditional stuff that utilizes the circle of fourths. But now we can't always, especially if you're playing more modern improvised music, we can't always count on tunes being structured around that traditional circle of fourths movement. So what we're going to do today is we're going to cap off the series by going over some fairly different chord progressions that aren't going to be your standard run-of-the-mill circle of fourths, very predictable in their harmonic motion. We're going to be doing stuff that's a little bit different. So the first one that I'd like to present to you is major chords in whole steps. So this is a different way of playing, right? So what you're going to see on your PDF for this week is you're going to see a C major chord for a measure, followed by a D major chord for a measure, and then it's going to keep going up in whole steps until we get through 6 keys, right? So the first play along for this is just going to go through 6 keys. And then what we're going to do is the next example that you see on your PDF for this week is going to be the other 6 keys. So the next one starts on D flat major 7, goes to E flat major 7, F, and so on and so forth through the other 6 keys. Now, we don't see this too often in the standard jazz literature, stuff out of the real book, stuff that you're going to be listening to on Blue Note records. We just don't see these chords moving in whole steps all that often. But if you were to play original music by a contemporary jazz artist, or if you're writing music, you will see some stuff that's like this. And it's not really the point to practice exactly what you're going to see. The point really is to practice utilizing whatever's thrown at you, right? So that we never want to be caught off guard. We never want to be caught flat-footed. If I could tell you the amount of times that I had to sight read chord changes on a gig, it's a lot. I mean, it's very, very often. So therefore, I want to be very, very prepared. And some of these progressions that I'm going to show you today will prepare you. And case in point, example number 1, moving in whole steps. This might be something that you've never played over before, but we're going to get used to it, and we're going to get used to a different way of playing this stuff. So again, I want you to think about the fact that if you're going to practice your major 7 chords in whole steps, you're also going to want to practice your dominant 7th chords in whole steps, and you're also going to want to practice your minor 7 chords in whole steps. And again, I think if you practice those 3 qualities of chords, you're going to be in pretty good shape. You'll have to make slight adjustments to some different chord qualities besides that, but that's pretty much the basis for like 90% of all jazz chords is, major 7, dominant 7, minor 7. And then if you need to flat the 5th, or if you need to augment a 5th or do something like that, you're going to be in pretty good shape if you have this stuff under your belt. So let me just demonstrate playing over this first progression. So I'm just going to simply go around these 6 chords a couple of times and just test myself, see if I can do it. See if I can get through them without really fumbling or losing my place or something like that. And it's also really good for the ears to do something besides the circle of fourths. So here is example number 1 on your PDF. These are major 7 chords in whole steps. And this is with the play along that you will get on Patreon. I'll be posting these with the episode when it comes out. That's a bit of an example of just some kind of, I'm not going for anything. I'm just kind of testing myself to see if I can play in all of those keys, right? So I'm not going for anything specific. I'm just really, okay, if I get hung up on this chord, maybe I need to work out some new stuff over that particular key or something like that. But I do a lot more structured stuff over this in my practice time. Things like I mentioned before, learning a piece of vocabulary in all the keys as they go by, shooting for one particular sound over every chord. You guys know the drill. I've kind of hammered that home in past episodes. So your second example on this sheet is actually minor 7th chords moving up in half steps. So this one goes through all 12 keys, right? And I've chosen minor 7 chords just because, like I said, we need to kind of handle every single quality of chord. So in this particular one, I just kind of chose to do minor 7th chords. So in this example, same thing, I'm just going to kind of test myself in every single key of the Dorian mode, or my minor 7 sounds in every single key. Great workout, especially moving in half steps, because half step motion is something that we see a lot, especially in modern music. So this would be a great thing to work on over major, dominant, and minor. Okay, so this is example number 2 on your PDF, and again, this is another play along that you'll be getting on Patreon if you choose to support us. So this is minor 7 chords starting on concert C minor and moving up in half steps. So I really feel like if you can play over something like that and it's relatively smooth and uninterrupted and you're getting through every key in a decent way, you're in pretty good shape. I mean, there's not a lot of stuff that you're going to see that you're not going to be able to handle. And again, this just gives us an easy way to cycle through all of the keys in a way that kind of makes sense, right? With a play along, which is always awesome. And these play alongs sound great. I mean, they're really, sounds like you're playing with a real band, which is pretty killer. So send me any questions you might have. If you're a Patreon member and you're starting to practice over this stuff, make sure you post it in the 10-minute jazz lesson fan page. It's a group on Facebook where we're going to start to evaluate each other's playing, ask questions. I'm going to be posting some videos this week of myself actually playing over this stuff, maybe start some discussion. So if you go on Facebook and you search for a group, 10-minute jazz lesson community, you'll be able to find that page. And hopefully we can connect with each other and do that kind of stuff. But remember, if you want to get the play-alongs and you want to get the PDFs, which are really super important, head over to our Patreon page by going over to our website, 10minutejazzlesson.com, and clicking on the Patreon link. It's as easy as that, and then you have access to everything. All right, I hope you guys have a great weekend. Hope you're having an awesome summer, and we'll see you next week with some brand new episodes. Talk to you soon. Bye.